Okay. Yud Sif Zayin. Now we will explain the third practice. One of the seven requirements to make it mutter, to say something, is that you have to rebuke the person who did wrong first before you could go tell others. I know Dafka Bestam. He says that's only in a regular case. But if you know, there's no way he's going to accept your rebuke. So there's no need to be machiachim. But what you do have to be careful in such a case is that you're saying it in front of at least three people. Why? He says because if you would say it sort of in a private type of setting from one person or two, Yisrael looks like Shumiskaven, so yeah, drum loss. It looks like you don't want that person to find out you're saying things about him. And what you want to do is you want to say the bad behind his back, but you want to stay in his favor and be his friend, so to speak. So then it looks like you're having hana from the sipra of lashon. So therefore, but if you send from three people, I guess you have the chaver islay. Once you send from three people, you're not saying it privately. You know that it's going to go out, and you're obviously not trying to be machnif the person it's about. Another reason, because people will come and suspect v'yamru to they'll start saying, it doesn't look right. What he's saying can't be right. Why he's making it up, because if it's really true, first of all, why didn't you go tell to the guy straight away? If people are going to lose trust in your story, then there's no ta'elis saying it. And therefore, so is this for oitamacher? Is why you have to be Mashiachim, or why you have to say in front of three people? Oh, so let's see. You won't gain any of those benefits that we said that people will learn from his actions, and maybe he himself will do tshuva. I can't talk the sapado appeared sometime of nature. Therefore, you have to say it publicly, which means at least in front of three. Because then it's as if you said it to the guy directly. Because once it's going to be spread, so that guy's going to find out also. It's not going to stay as a secret. So it's as if you said it to him. And now people will not anymore suspect that you're trying to hide something or do something behind the guy's back. You're saying it straight out. Okay. Because it's not common to Adam kosher. That's not a common thing that an Adam kosher will publicize something that's a lie publicly. He wants to lie, he'll do it privately, but not publicly. Now, even with it being said in front of three people, says the Chavetz Chaim, you have to remember those who hear it, not allowed to believe it. And they can't now in their hearts look down at that person the story was said about. That's because even though it's not outright a lie, maybe the guy left something out, which could change the whole picture. Excuse me. I can also even though it was publicized, the listeners, cannot believe it as truth. They are allowed to listen to it as far as that they will investigate the story and find out if there's truth to it, and then they will rebuke the person who these things are being said about. Perhaps he'll listen to them. And the other benefits that will come about by this person saying the Lashon Hara and then finding out that it's true. If I remember, one of the other benefits was that, first of all, people will look down at wrongdoing. And number two, maybe that person, seeing that people do not honor him anymore for what he's done, may help him change his action. Now, this is all true, and I'm not afraid of that. But if I'm afraid, the guy's in a power position. He could come after me. Then it's possible that you would be allowed to say it even privately, because there, it's not because you're trying to hide it from that guy so that he'll still be your friend. Right? You're doing it because you're afraid of him. And therefore, and maybe also people won't misinterpret what you're saying and say, well, why aren't you saying it publicly? It must be it's not true, because they'll also appreciate that that guy is just, he's afraid of him finding out that he's saying bad about him. Let me after. Yes, oh. Yeah, okay. If the Masaper, the one who's saying the story, he has what's it called? People know that he's not afraid of people. He's the type of guy who gets up to say the truth. He fights, not afraid. And whatever he says, not in front of the guy, he'll just as quickly say it in front of the guy. He's not afraid. He's a person who's very outspoken. She's not afraid of people. And also, he's known to only say truth. That's his chazak. So he's allowed to then say over wrongdoings that someone did, and he knows that the person won't accept his rebuke. I feel so this is another case. One case that you're allowed to say it, even if privately, was if you're afraid that the person find out you're a bad mouthing him. And the second case is where you have a reputation. No one's going to say that by the fact you're saying it privately, it's because it's not true. It's because you're hiding it. No, you have a reputation of saying things even in front, even to the person's face. And number two, that you always say the truth. Because there's such a person, those who are listening aren't going to be choishin either to be a flatterer or a shakran. Rather, they'll interpret it that his intention is to fight for the truth, and to help the one who got hurt, and to degrade wrongdoings in front of everybody. But still, in this, you still have to be careful. He says, still, you have to make sure that you're fulfilling all the other conditions, because the only one we've knocked off is but to make sure that according to halacha, the guy really did wrong, and you saw the action yourself, or you investigated it on your own. All those conditions have to still be fulfilled. For da'oid, further, he says, Sif Yud. The Shavan Yachad didn't see Lashon al Dvar Oven to Ben Adon Chavera, but see Lashon al Dvar Oven to Ben Adon Amok. That the halacha is the same whether you're saying something about Ben Adon Chavera or Ben Adon Lamokim. However, Ba'avera Ben Adon Lamokim, when it's an avera of Ben Adon Lamokim, Ein Mutal Safra Love, I feel you Shamu Kal Pratam Albashlik Base. You're not allowed to say it over, even if you fulfill all the conditions, Elam Ken Ra Olav, unless you saw Sha'oich is Ba, that he's constantly doing it. And it's an avera that everybody knows is wrong. Shuisa. That he spoke about. But otherwise, in either case, you would have to fulfill these 9 pratim before you could speak. Okay, that's Hilchas. And now it's Shmiras haLashon. Are we up to Perikei? Shahatuna Perikei?
Yes.
Okay, Yavar Bo Mitzvah V'Hafta Recha Kamoicha. We'll explain here the mitzvah V'Hafta L'Recha Kamoicha. The haLashon is explaining be'emes. He had spoken in the last parak about the obligation and the milah of judging a person favorably. Right? If they judge you favorably, you're a better person. People like you. Sorry, the chiyuv. He says now, that mitzvah of judging a person favorably, midas Shmiras haLashon, and also the midah of Shmiras haLashon, watching yourself. They're both, I guess, aspects of the mitzvah. If you really care about another person, you certainly won't speak bad about him. And you'll do your best to judge him favorably. Just like if you did something wrong, and people would speak about it. And you, who did the wrong thing, you know there's explanations why you did it. You know you did it by mistake. How much would you want? That some of those people will find merit. They'll say that. So it's so that you shouldn't be so disgraced. The same way you have to do for the other person. Just like if it was you that they were talking about, you would want them to do their best to explain it in a way that's positive. Explain, even if it means, oh, it was a mistake, you didn't know the severity, right? You would not want them. You wouldn't want them to talk bad about you. You would want them to find some way of explaining it to lessen the wrongdoing. So too is your obligation, and that's all out of V'Hafta L'Recha Kamoicha. V'chein shayeches mitzvah sha'avas reim kodim ha'ma'aseh gamkin. Says that would apply. The mitzvah V'Hafta L'Recha Kamoicha would apply before. Kidei shlo yavach haveri de bizayin, in order that the other shouldn't be disgraced. Kamoy, for example, shayimasi is b'nai b'ir acheres. You're marrying off your son, or someone's marrying off a son in another city. Or you were moving to another city. You don't know the customs of that place. So you're trying to find a friend that he could help you out and teach you the ways. And if he sees that you're doing something it's not acceptable in that place, you would want to call you over privately, so you would know what to be careful of. There's a Benyan sharing. You shouldn't be disgraced in the eyes of the people. That's what you would want, that there should be someone there who would step up and coach you. That's what you have to do for another person. You see someone is standing more kosher with the you see that someone is going to do something wrong. The covered yellow that ultimately won't give him any cover. If it's not awesome, you're obligated to go with him and explain to him that that's not acceptable here, and people are going to just look down at you. Kai Gav the Matzina Bahari stuff Yudimo, we find it in a Gemara, Reb Yaakov ben Karshi and Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Ayin Sham. And even more, we found it more in Sanhedrin, Rekama Tanoim. Shimshicho al Atzman Bizoyin, they were willing to take the blame. The Isaac was a Alacher. Few stories there where during a shir something happened, and he's the one saying the shir said, "Who did that?" And someone got up and took the blame and walked out, even though it wasn't him. It was to save someone from embarrassment. That's all in the Vahavtarecha Kamecha. V'chosh Kenim Uroya all of Shoyset. You up here then. Certainly, so if you see that the person is doing something halachically wrong, certainly obligated to tell him privately. And rebuke him. They shouldn't fall by doing this wrong in this world and the next world. And by doing that, you're fulfilling the mitzvah of Teichacha. And you'll be giving tremendous nachas ruach to Hashem. That other person who's doing wrong is Hashem's son also. And you've helped that son. You brought him back. So the father's going to be so happy. What can I do for you? You brought my son back, ala derech. But if you have the ability and you don't do it, rather you become those who are disgracing him. What will Hashem have from that? Nothing. Okay, he'll continue a little more. I see you in the next one. So means Hashem, today's what? Sunday? Yeah. Tomorrow, hopefully. Okay.